Hello, Lions fans, and welcome to episode 27 of Just Lying Around, Detroit Lions podcast presented by the World of Football. I'm your host, Kyle Sutherland, and I am joined by my co-host and brother-in-law, Adam Snow. Adam, how you doing after, what was it, 2 weeks now we had off? How you doing?
Oh yeah, feels like it's been a minute. Kind of get the sting of that loss out of our systems, and just now it's a nice time to reflect upon the actual great season we had, and now look forward to, you know, uh, what next season could bring. But of course, we got to hand out some of our awards for the year. Like I'm excited about this. We're gonna kind of put a cap on 2023, and then after today's show, it's all about the next season, baby.
Yep, it is. We'll be waiting for Brad's home #1 pick, so yeah. But yeah, on today's show, we're going to go back over the Lions' 2023 season and give out a plethora of awards from our most valuable Lion to our favorite play of the season. We'll give recognition to many players from this past season as well. But first, we want to thank you for checking out our podcast, whether that's on the YouTube channel or on your podcast platform of choice. You can find the World of Football and its many offerings on multiple social media platforms. Just check down in the description. And now, before we jump into our awards, we have a few news items to quickly talk about.
Yeah.
So, we have 3 topics here, Lions news. First one, Brad Holmes was really feeling himself in the postseason press conference. Whether it be
Heck yeah, he
from the
was.
sick and tired of the Cinderella story, cute story, tired of hearing that, to calling out reporters, to telling the fans, don't worry, we got this, and even talking about Jared Goff, how he should be the future. So yeah.
Yeah, a lot of good stuff came out of that press conference. I assume you finally got a chance to sit down and watch it because it's a couple weeks old now. But I watched that whole thing. It was like 39 minutes, and it was glorious. I loved every second of it. Brad Holmes just torching some reporters, all that stuff like you said, reassuring fans about the plan. I mean, I'd run through a brick wall for Brad Holmes. I said that on the weekly podcast with Dad. That man, he only gets on the podium a couple times a year, and when he does, I make sure to check it out.
Yep. So yeah, reassuring the fans, even talking about he knows where their weakness is in the roster. So one being the offensive line. We have a few players that are up for unrestricted agency, so they could go somewhere else. So he knows he has to fill those spots. Cornerback depth, he knows about that, so he's going to address that as well. But yeah, to me, the funniest thing was calling out the reporters in the meeting, saying, "Yeah, you even called out like we should have drafted a quarterback. Look at where he's at now and who we actually got drafted." So yeah, he was feeling himself a lot during that, and he didn't really care about what anyone said.
And he shouldn't. I mean, he clearly kept receipts, even though he told one of the other reporters he didn't keep receipts. He kept receipts, and we're okay with that, Brad. Keep the receipts, because if that's what you got to do and prove everybody wrong, then you got those. Keep dishing them out. I love it. He can keep doing this every year. I'm all there for it. He's proven me wrong at points with stuff I thought maybe the Lions should do in the draft. He's proven a lot of people wrong. Clearly, the dude knows what he's doing. You just got to buy in and trust everything he's doing. So if he ends up drafting a kicker in the first round, let's just trust him. All right, we'll just trust Brad Holmes, right?
Yep, and yeah, whether he stays in his role for years to come, or a couple years, or 10 years down the line, I'll follow whatever he does, no matter what. So yeah.
Yeah.
And then last thing on this press conference, Brad Holmes talking about Jared Goff contract extension. He even quoted, "I don't know what more needs to be said from a leadership or performance standpoint, or what more he needs to do. So yeah, I think
Well, I think the
hopefully,
only thing missing is giving Jared Goff one of our awards later today. We'll see if that happens or not. But I mean,
yeah, we'll see.
Jared Goff's done pretty much everything else.
Yeah, as far as extensions this year, I could see Goff, Amon-Ra. There's already talk about him too. So yeah,
Oh yeah, they'll figure that out.
yep. And then next point we want to talk about Lions made a signing from the CFL most outstanding defensive player of the year, Matthew Betts, coming from the BC Lions. I think it's his was it fourth or fifth year in the CFL. Um, was it last season? So they
Hey,
went out and
hey,
signed him.
I'm just gonna ask you real quick. Do you know what BC stands for? Do you know what the CFL means? Like I know you're primarily a Michigan and NFL savant, but do you know anything about what those acronyms even mean?
Well, from what I was watching, from what I heard, they're probably the third or fourth stringers from the NFL that couldn't make it, so they
Oof.
go to the CFL.
How dare you? The Canadian Football League is a great football league. Go over and check out our regular podcast where we talk CFL more. We love the CFL. The British Columbia Lions last year, though, they had a pretty good season. Um, we thought maybe they could even sneak into the Grey Cup, which is the championship game for the CFL. But different podcast for a different time. We're not here to talk about the CFL that much. We're here to talk about the Lions and this kid though with British Columbia, or defensive player of the year. Um, which is I think our most outstanding defensive player of the year, which is a heck of an achievement. The guy had a heck of a season up there in the CFL. Say what you will about you call them fourth stringers. Look, the CFL's got talent. All right, there are talented dudes up there. They just got to get their shot. And clearly, Brad Holmes and the crew saw something in this guy to bring him in and at least give him a shot.
Yep. So, yeah, his last season, 2023, he had 44 defensive tackles, 2 special team tackles, 18 sacks, 3 forced fumbles, and 1 block kick. So we'll
That's a
see
sack a
in training
game.
camp. What's
That's a
that?
sack a game. They play 18 games in the regular season in the CFL. That's one sack
Yeah.
per game. Aiden Hutchinson couldn't even do that.
Well, okay. He didn't have any help, so
Oh, here he
we'll go.
is. Here he is. Here's the help.
Yeah. So, yeah. Anyways, we'll see in training camp when he finally plays against the big boys how he does. So maybe
Oh,
across from Taylor Decker or Penny Sewell, just chop blocking him down. So yeah, we'll see. I mean, if it does work out for him, I think that would be a great addition across from Aiden Hutchinson, especially who they had last year or the year before. So, yeah, we'll never
yeah,
know.
and
We won't know
you
until it
never know.
comes.
And the CFL season doesn't start up till late May, early June. So interesting, that they can get this guy now. He's not like an NFL free agent, so interesting that they pick him up. Clearly, the Lions scouting department's looking further than just college, or in the NFL. They're looking beyond into, you know, uh, the new spring leagues that are popping up, Canadian Football League. There's going to be a bunch of indoor leagues popping up. So I'll be curious to see what other kind of guys pop up on the Lions' radar. And I like this. This is a fun news story that we had the other day.
Yep. And then let's talk about the NFL honors and maybe a few of the nominees for the Lions getting snubbed. So what do we have? We have Ben Johnson, Dan Campbell, Jameer Gibbs, Sam Laporta, um, Brian Branch, Jack Campbell. So yeah, let's just coach of the year first of all. I didn't agree with this, and I think the person that should have won wasn't Dan Campbell. It should have been the Texans head coach, and somehow
All right.
Browns coach Kevin Stefanski won. So
Yeah, I'm right there with you. It should have been D'Amico Ryan. As much as I love Dan Campbell, it would have gone D'Amico than Dan. And we could be biased all day and say it should have been Dan Campbell. Well, look, D'Amico Ryan turned that Texans franchise around in one season.
Oh, yeah.
Stefanski, look, while he did a good coaching job dealing with how many quarterbacks over the course of that season, like you got to commend him. But that's one position. That's one position where, like, I won't say it's a plug and play position. You got to have a lot of good guys around him, and the quarterback's got to play well. But it is something you have to adjust around as a coach. And while I admire that, he would have been 3 out of the coaches. It would have been D'Amico, Dan, then Stefanski for me.
Yep. And we had assistant coach of the year. Ben Johnson came in third, first place winner. I could see this. You had Browns defensive coordinator Jim Schwartz won it. So,
Well, I don't know. They had a pretty
I
decent
think if
defense, but
some of those weird play calls Ben Johnson didn't do that resulted in like what the heck is going on. If those didn't happen, I think Ben Johnson would have won.
I see you got a cat up on your desk there. Look, I don't know. Schwartz had a great defense. They were a great defense. Don't get me wrong. They were, but Ben Johnson, I mean, other than the third quarter, if he would have cleaned up the third quarter, as we called it all season long, he probably would have been a shoe-in for assistant of the year. But, still in the conversation. I don't know if it was a complete snub, but what can you do?
Yep. And then we had offensive rookie of the year. The winner for that is the Texans quarterback. C.J. Stroud. He won it. Sam Laporta came in third. Jahmyr Gibbs came in fourth. I don't know who came in second. Puka Nacua came in second. So
Yeah,
I'd like to see
that's a
a little
tough
more.
list.
Yeah, I'd like to see a little more votes for Jahmyr Gibbs, but I'm not
I
gonna
mean,
complain about that.
Gibbs, I get it. The sample size for Gibbs, they definitely held him out for that first month of the season. We didn't really see much of him, so I get it. Maybe that hurt his campaign, but you can't argue with Stroud the way he played this year. You can't argue with the way Puka Nacua ended up playing. Sam Laporta, I mean, now you got to talk about a guy on his own team. Was Sam Laporta the better rookie between him and Gibbs? I might think so. So,
There's a lot of debate on that.
all right, I'm sure we'll get into it.
And
And did
then
we
we
ever talk
had the
about
defense.
did we talk about on the last podcast that Ben Johnson was staying? Did we talk about that? I can't remember.
No, not yet. We'll talk about it in one
Okay.
second.
Okay, I was gonna say I
Then,
couldn't remember if we made that a news story or not.
I don't. No, we didn't. Because that.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. Then we had defensive rookie of the year. Winner was Texans edge rusher Will Anderson. Brian Branch tied for fifth, and Jack Campbell tied for eighth. I feel like if Brian Branch got hurt a couple games, if he would have had that fire from game one throughout the whole season, I think he would have been up there higher in the voting. Jack Campbell, I think next year he's gonna really turn it up for him. So.
Yeah, with Branch, I mean Branch was the flashy name on defense for the line, at least rookie. Campbell had a quiet rookie season, but it was a semi-efficient season. He definitely has some stuff to clean up going into year two, but Campbell, I think, had a very quietly good 2023 campaign.
Yep, and then like with all these rookies, we have Brian Branch, Jack Campbell, Jahmyr Gibbs, Sam Laporta. Just next year, going through training camp again, getting toner, losing all that college baby fat, as they would say. I think they're just gonna. It's gonna be a wild ride. So yeah, buckle up. I'm interested in seeing what they're gonna be able to accomplish there.
Yeah.
And then yeah. So speaking of awards, we have the 2023-2024 Just Lying Around Awards. So we
Did you want
have
to jump into those, or did you want to talk real quick about Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn? Since we didn't have it on the rundown, do you want to talk about that real quick before we jump into the?
uh, yeah, we can do that.
Well,
So
let's make
yeah,
that impromptu. Yeah.
yep. So as you, if you were watching the or listening or whatever, keeping track of the NFL coaching hires and all that stuff. Um, Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn are both staying in Detroit. So it sounded like Ben Johnson was going to go to the Washington Commanders, but on the plane ride to Detroit to interview Ben Johnson told the Washington Commanders, "No, I am not interested in the job. I want to stay with Detroit." Um, so yeah, he's staying. And then it sounded like Aaron Glenn wasn't. I don't think he was like close to getting that job. They just wanted to kind of interview him as well. So yeah,
Yeah.
both those coaches staying.
Yeah. Pleasantly surprised. But for me, I mean, obviously glad to have Ben Johnson back. I was prepared to move on. I don't know about you. Prepared to move on from Ben Johnson to see what this offense could do because I think we had a lot of good pieces in place, and I was curious to see somebody try to get over that third quarter hump that Ben Johnson seemed to have this last season. But another year with these guys, another year under Ben Johnson to be more creative, to do a lot of different things, and who knows what other weapons we're going to add in the offseason for Ben Johnson to use. So that'll be interesting. But the big thing for me is Aaron Glenn coming back. I was also looking forward to moving on from him, but I'm okay with us sticking with him. I think if he gets a few more guys on that defense, I am very curious to see what his defense could look like when he's got healthy backs who can actually, defensive backs that can actually like cover and like
Uh,
they don't have to hide and scheme it. Because I mean, Sutton got burned so much. Maybe he needed a little bit more help. Maybe they clearly need some more depth on the back end and on the defensive line. Even linebacker, they could use a little more depth. But maybe if they shore up that defense a little bit, which a lot of the speculation is it's going to be a defensive heavy draft for Detroit. We'll see what this defense could really do under Aaron Glenn, and maybe that'll also propel him to being a head coaching candidate or a top front runner next year. He's been a candidate the last couple years. We'll see if that helps propel him even more. But I'm cautiously optimistic about Aaron Glenn returning.
yeah, and even with Brad Holmes saying he knows what they need to either get in free agency or draft in the NFL coming up here, helping out the defense, especially with the cornerback. Um, I think they were kind of hoping that Cam Sutton was going to be a quarterback or defensive back one. Obviously, that's not true. So he's a great defensive back number two. So hopefully they go out in the free agency, get him one, or the draft. They'd have to move up if they wanted to get that true lockdown cornerback one.
Yeah, you got a little fight breaking out behind you.
But yeah, so yeah, if they do get one of those guys or another elite pass rusher across from Hutchinson, I think the sky's the limit for Aaron Glenn if that defense does pop off to
Yeah,
hopefully at the end of the season maybe get a coaching job, head coaching job for him. And
yeah,
as
for sure.
far as Aaron or Ben Johnson goes, with the talent he's got right now, the rookies hopefully progressing more next year. Hopefully, yeah, getting over that third quarter mess every single game. So yeah, I don't know. I think keeping them in house right now this year coming up probably a good thing. So yeah,
Yeah,
as they would
right
say,
on.
keeping the band back together.
For sure. All about
Yeah.
that. Keeping some continuity.
Yep. Okay. And but yeah, I think they lost a couple lower coaches than them, but I I think that's if you want to look into that stuff, look online. I think
Yeah, was it like they got a new defensive line coach? That was one of the main
yeah,
coaching positions I saw get filled up. I didn't even realize the guy had left, or if they even had the position at all. I don't know. But
I don't think he left. I think they just added another guy or something.
oh,
Uh,
okay. Yeah.
Okay, so moving on here, we got the 2023, 2024 just lying around awards. We have 9 awards we want to give out this year. So let's jump into this. We got the first one, Offensive
All right.
Rookie of the Year. So personally, I want to give it to Jahmyr Gibbs. I
Oh.
know we got Sam Laporta, but yeah, I just feel like the way Jahmyr Gibbs came into the scene, I think it was like game 6 or 5 or 6, he finally stepped onto the field, starting to like get comfortable, and just the way he was running was just, I don't know, it's something special to see. So yeah, that's my award I want to give to for the Rookie of the Year, Offensive Rookie of the Year.
All right, not a problem. My offensive rookie of the year. I was wondering if you would go the Gibbs route, but I went the Sam Laporta route. I think Sam Laporta. I mean, it was a historically great season for tight ends. Uh, he ended up having 86 catches, 889 yards. He had 10 touchdown catches. His longest catch being 48 yards. He just absolutely blew us all away this season, and he has the highlights to match, and even the non-highlight plays, he was just efficient. He was just kind of the safety valve for that offense this season, and to come in as a rookie and to follow in the footsteps of a guy that we traded last year in uh, T.J. Hawkinson, that was a pretty good tight end in his own right. We were all kind of upset that we kind of traded him, but I think they upgraded. Brad Holmes clearly knows what he's doing. Dan Campbell clearly saw something, and this kid comes in and exceeded everything I think Hawkinson ever did in Detroit. Like, don't get me wrong, I have nothing against Hawkinson. I still like Hawk, but Laporta just came in, no flash. He was just all substance, and he got the job done. Maybe a few drops here and there, but overall, he was pretty clutch. Even after like the hyperextended knee, you know,
Oh,
came into that playoff game and dude still balled. And I commend that dude because he's got the word that we all love here in Detroit. He's got grit.
yeah, it was between those two, it's a tough choice because yeah, those
Yeah.
guys both made the Pro Bowl this year. First year, like even playing, like yeah, Brad Holmes did his research and he got two outstanding offensive rookies there. So yeah,
Yeah, he
and
did.
then let's move on to Defensive Rookie of the Year. We had Brian Branch or Jack Campbell. I chose Brian Branch just because he's starting or nickel. He played 15 games, 50 solo tackles, um, 7 tackles for loss, 3 interceptions, one um, one interception returned for a touchdown. Yeah, just the way they he was a starting was a slot cornerback. Um, just the way he plugged him in right away, like yeah, um, big pickup from Brad Holmes there.
Yep, I agree with you 100%. Defensive Rookie of the Year. Give it to Brian Branch. All the things you said, I can't say much better than you did. From game one, that interception return for a touchdown, he was kind of on everybody's radar. I think even in the preseason, he was kind of making us go, this kid could be something. Then game one, bam, that happened. The only problem he's got is he doesn't know how to use his mouth guard properly. That is the only thing wrong with Brian Branch, is that he doesn't know where to put that mouth guard. It's just sticking in his helmet for some reason. But whatever, kid, we love you. He had a heck of a season this year.
Yeah, I wonder if he's gonna keep that in his helmet up this whole this season coming up, season after that. It'd be kind of
I don't
interesting.
know. Maybe that's his thing. Maybe it's his thing. I don't know.
But yeah, him him and or Jack Campbell again. Brad Home doing his research, like picking up 2 rookie studs like that for the defensive side. So yeah.
Yeah.
Then we're gonna move on to let's jump one down. Offensive Player of the Year. to me, I wanna nominate or choose Frank Ragnow, the center
Wow.
for the
Okay.
Lions. Just the way he's been playing all year, playing through was it what playoff game he got really hurt? Who
Oh
was
yeah,
that
he was
against?
all sorts of banged up. Well, he got hurt in that
Oh,
Tampa
Bucks game.
game. Yeah,
Yeah,
he was
just the
playing
way
real
he
hurt.
was. Yeah, just the way how many injuries they were listing off for him. He's saying like, no, I'm still playing in this game. Like, you ain't gonna take me out. Um, his vision to call out blitzes for Goff, um, letting like Goff know what he sees during the play. Like, yeah, that's why I chose Ragnow.
You know what? Not a bad pick. I mean, this is the same dude that played how many weeks with a broken throat? Remember that?
Oh yeah,
Oh my god, this dude is something else. I love Frank Ragnar. That's a good pick. I like that pick. Um, but my offensive player of the year is going to go to Amon-Ra St. Brown. You know, the dude was an absolute stud. You know, um, he was just one of the best players on the field all season long. Clutch, 119 catches, 1,515 yards receiving, 10 touchdowns. He had a 70-yard reception at one point. Remember that touchdown? That one was great. The dude,
oh yeah.
he can do so much. They didn't use him in the run game as much as they have in years past, but that's fine. They've kind of found other guys to fill that role that he used to, but this dude is tough as nails. He will practically catch anything thrown at him. There's like one or two games where it was like a fluky, he couldn't catch a couple of passes. It was bizarre, but I mean, he usually ends up being one of the most clutch guys you need on Sundays. Yeah, and I just love the dude. He clearly is out there with the mentality of he's going to be better than everybody. And guess what? 9 games out of 10, he is usually the better player out of everybody on that field.
Yeah, that offensive player, like, yeah, either St. Brown, you could even probably throw in Montgomery there if you wanted to.
There's a lot of
Sam
guys.
Laporta. Yeah, you got a
Like
lot of guys.
I almost even thought about like putting Goff there, but I figured like, you know what? Goff's got those a lot of safety valves. It's nothing against Goff, but it was just like all the playmakers he's got, weapons he's got at his disposal, Amon-Ra was the one that just seemed like the most lethal all the time. Even if it was throwing it into triple coverage, you know he's going to catch it. How many times did we see Amon-Ra catch a ball like just in between three guys? It's like, how did he get that? We've seen so many contested catches. He just shows how strong he is. I just continually get impressed with Amon-Ra, and it's going to be tough to beat his performance for me.
All right, yeah. So next one we have defensive player of the year. Of course, I'm going to go with Aiden Hutchinson on this one. He had 121 pressures, 11 and a half sacks. Overall, from PFF, a 91.0 grade. Um, I mean, what more is to be said about Aiden Hutchinson? Like, if they get another person on the opposite side of him next year, like, he's only going to get better. I mean, it'll be a scary thing to watch with him and the other guy across from him on that line there.
Yep, agreed 100% with you. It's Aiden Hutchinson. He one of my favorite plays he had all year was that one interception against Carolina. You remember that play? Like the dude's got athleticism.
Oh yeah.
He while I think at times they haven't utilized him to the extent that I think they could, because he gets so out wide. He's doing that whole swim move kind of thing on the outside that sometimes he kind of over pursues. But man, there's just been times where like when he's in that backfield, good luck. It is hard to escape when Hutch is back there. He'll do enough to clog up that play, and that's what you need from your defensive end to go in there and wreak havoc. So you already listed all the stats. I don't even need to go into that again. But Hutch, yeah. I mean, there was a couple guys I almost considered over Hutch, like an Anzalone, who
Oh
I have just grown every year just more and more in love with. He is just Thor on a football field. He's got a nose for the football, and the dude makes plays. And there's another guy who I'm going to talk about here in a second that I also considered, but I'm going to put him in a different category. But the Lions had a couple of dudes that I was very happy with on defense. Still a long way to go as a whole for the defense, but a couple of studs.
Yep. And so our next topic is most improved player of the year. I chose Ife Malafanu, safety who came in
Yep.
late. Really, he had 2 interceptions, pass breakups, tackles, sacks, like you name it. Whatever they needed him to do once he started clicking, he was there. And yeah, I think that was a good for them for keeping him on the roster. I don't know if before the season started they were talking about maybe cutting him with the way his injuries were, and um, uh, yeah, his the way he played the last couple seasons. So yeah,
Yeah, he was definitely a guy who went from like last year just being kind of that almost the Will Harris type where you kind of rotate him in every once in a while. And he was that to an extent this season, but clearly towards the end of the year because of injuries and whatnot, and maybe improved play, he was finally able to get on the field. I loved seeing him. I think he started making a lot of impact in that was it the New Orleans game? He got like an interception. I could be wrong. Maybe I'm mixing him up, but he had a couple of great games. His name kept coming up, and I was like, this dude is just out there everywhere now. And I love seeing it. Going from last year to this year, especially, the improvement that we've all seen in him, I think, should be noted. And I agree with you 100%. It is, uh, and I always have problems saying his name, uh, Fatu Melo, Melifonwu.
Malafanu, yeah.
Yeah,
I just call
I'll
him
always probably have
Iffy.
trouble with it. Iffy, I still love you though.
Yeah, with him and Kirby Joseph, it'll be interesting to talk about Tracy Walker, but we'll save that for a future podcast here.
Yeah.
So moving on, we have best off-season transaction. For me, I know I gotta pick one, but I want to throw out two names here. Well,
Aw.
I'll throw out one, but I'll talk about the other after you say who you
Okay,
got
what's your
here.
pick? What's your official
So
award go to?
my award would go to Graham Glasgow.
Wow. Okay,
Yeah,
didn't see that coming.
with the
Elaborate,
way he
please.
came back from being in Detroit, wanting out, went to Denver, had a really what he was there for what 1 year or 2 years, a
3
couple
years.
years,
He had a nice contract with them. He was there for several years.
but he was always hurt. Everyone in Denver hated him. Like then he coming back saying, "I want to play with my friends." Taylor Decker, Frank Ragnow, and then just stepping in that starting guard position, holding the line. Everyone loves him here. Even in stepping in at the center when Frank Ragnow went out for a game or two. Yeah, like that's why I chose him. I hopefully contracts come up. I hope they sign him for maybe 1 or 2 more years. Because I'd hate for him to have him step out of the building and maybe go somewhere else.
Yeah, I'd hate to see that too. That's a good pickup. Yeah, I was so happy when they got him back on a cheaper deal because when he went, he was one of the best guards in football when he went to Denver. Got that big fat contract and all that happened. Now he's back, probably on an easier team friendly deal, and I think now, as he's a part of that unit, he might get a little more cheddar. Hard to say how the Lions will deal that out, but they have enough depth that I'm not saying he's irreplaceable. I would love to have him, but I do think if they needed to move on from him, they probably could. But I love Grant Glasgow. It was great to have him back this year. But that's a surprising pick from me. I like that. My offseason transaction that I think just stole the show was the signing of David Montgomery. That was a move where so much had to happen around it. So much like you're cutting ties. Well, first off, you get Montgomery. So like, all right, we got Montgomery and we got Swift. They let not Jameson, Jamal Williams go. He went to New Orleans. Everyone was kind of bummed about that, but then we got Montgomery, so it was like, oh, a little bit of an upgrade. And then so we had him and Swift, and then we drafted Gibbs, and I was like, okay, we got 3 running backs now. Then they traded Swift away. And so I just think that whole domino effect of first letting go of Jamal Williams, getting Montgomery, and now look what Montgomery did. He had a 1,000-yard season this year. I thought he looked really great. We've saw him for years with the Chicago Bears. He, 219 carries, 1,015 yards, 13 touchdowns. The dude was an absolute wrecking ball. And do you remember what was his long play of what was that? Like 70 something yards, 75-yard run he
75.
had? Yeah, the 75-yard run. Like the dude, he still got it. And he was a little banged up there for a little bit too. And if he wasn't, he probably would have gotten more, of that workhorse load, because him and Gibbs were a great 1-2 punch. We almost had 2,000-yard backs in the same season, which to me is absolutely nuts for one team to have 2,000-yard backs. But I think it all started from getting Montgomery there. That kind of set a tone with how this offense was also going to be this year. And nothing against Jamal. Jamal was, that guy you give it to 4 or 5 yards from the end zone and you let him pound it in. Never could really get going outside of that. And here we are. We're like, okay, let's upgrade to a Montgomery who's going to do that, but consistently all the way down the field. 5-yard carry, 6-yard carry. Oh, he popped off 14 yards. Oh, shoot, there goes the 75-yarder. He can out of the backfield. So he's a more versatile threat than I think a Jamal Williams was. And like I said, I love Jamal Williams. I was sad to see him go. But as if you're Brad Holmes, this move right here was like taking that checker piece, getting down to the end and upgrading to the queen. You get that extra stack on top of the checker piece. Now you can move all over the board. That was to me what he just did.
That would be the pawn.
That's chess. I'm talking checkers. In checkers, when you go all the way down and you go king me, that's what it is. You put the other piece on top.
Well, you can play checkers. I'll play chess.
If you knew the rules, I don't even know if you know the rules of chess.
Yeah, I do. Anyways, so I want to talk about one more person on this best off-season transaction real quick. My other person I want to talk about is Jalen Reeves-Maybin. Special teams, went to the Pro Bowl, or nominated for the Pro Bowl, didn't go because he got banged up a little bit. But yeah, just the way what he did in special teams, even stepping on the field as a linebacker for the defensive side when called upon. He threw a pass too for 31 yards. So yeah, I think that was a good pickup to bring him back.
Okay. Yeah, no, I'm cool with that.
Okay, so let's do game of the year. For me, it would be one of the games we went to, playoff game against the Rams at home, winning the first playoff game against Rams Stafford. Yeah, that was a special moment in history, one that I probably won't forget ever. So yeah, that's why.
For what reasons? Is it for the guy who kept standing in front of you and making it hard for you to watch the game?
No.
The same
Maybe,
guy who flung his chicken fingers all over the people sitting in front of us. Those poor people.
Yeah. Oh. And then his friend next to him doing the same thing later on. So yeah, that's my game of the year. What's yours?
It's the same game. We sat 4 or 5 seats apart. You were on one end. I think I was on the other end, and I think we had 2 different experiences though during the game. But I mean, overall though, that atmosphere, everything about that game, from the golf chants to just going up against Stafford, booing Stafford, and as much as I still love Stafford, like the fact that we were like, look, Stafford, we love you, but I'm going to boo the crap out of you because you are not stopping us from winning this game. It was just the most insane atmosphere I've ever been to at a football game. I will never forget that. And just in terms of also the Lions playing that game, the Lions did everything they needed to do to hold the Rams, who were hot at the time, to, making some mistakes at crucial points in the game. That opening drive specifically where, Lions went down and scored, the Rams were trying to match it, and the Lions holding them to a field goal was a big thing on that first drive, flustering Stafford enough during that game where Stafford still played great. Don't get me wrong, but they flustered him enough to the point where I think a couple of mistakes kind of domino affected into the Lions also getting that win. And then the Lions obviously controlling the clock there at the end of the game. That big amon-ra first down to seal everything up. I was like so confused for a minute because I didn't know. I was like, wait, do we have enough time to just start kneeling it or do we have to run another play? But it was done. Like, it was just magic. It was great.
Yeah, I think with the way Aleem McNeil kind of knocked him on the ground there, I don't think Stafford should have finished that game with the way
Yeah, it's
he was looking up at the stars there.
Hey, look, say
Yep.
what you will. Stafford was always tough as nails in Detroit. It didn't surprise me one bit that he was able to get back out on that field. I mean, we sat there in the stands and we watched Carson Wentz warming up. Matthew Stafford in the blue tent. We saw Wentz warming up, and I'm like, there's no way Wentz is coming out here. I'm going to guarantee you there's no way. And yeah, of course, who comes trotting out? It's Matt Stafford. And there was even stuff like we were talking about, Dad and I, like, I didn't realize Stafford had hurt his hand or had it bandaged up during the game. So Stafford took a beating, okay,
Oh, yeah.
that game. And look, I always wanted to see Matthew Stafford in a Lions playoff game, and I kind of got my wish. Unfortunately, he was in the other team's uniform, but I wouldn't trade that game, that memory, all that stuff around it for anything now. That was something else.
All right, then we move on to our next one, play of the year for me. I don't know about you, but my heart was pumping. I was nervous. Last play of the game against the Vikings, Iffy Melifanu coming up with the biggest
Oh,
interception to win the North and
wow,
the game.
okay.
So yeah, that is my
That's a good
play
pick.
of the year.
That is a great pick. You know, that was one that I won't say it didn't cross my mind, but I was more thinking of like the explosive offense that we were kind of accustomed to all season. So the play I'm going to is against the Carolina Panthers, a play that was mimicked by the San Francisco 49ers later that evening. The kind of halfback pitch and throw to Sam Laporta for a touchdown. I
Oh
just
yeah,
remember being so hyped for that play. I was like, heck yeah, like this is Ben Johnson at his finest. This is the Lions just doing absolutely anything they want to do against this Panthers team on that day. And it was just, I don't know, that play of all the plays Detroit had all season, it always just stuck out to me. And on top of it, having the 49ers kind of copy it, I'll say copy. They had it clearly already in their playbook also. I'm sure a lot of teams do. It's just funny that the Lions dialed it up at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And then in the 4 o'clock game or the 8 o'clock game, whenever the Niners did it, they did the same thing. So that was my play of the year. The Sam Laporta halfback pass. I forget who the halfback was that threw it to him, but I'm sure the replay's playing over the screen right now. But that was great.
yeah, I don't know. I have to look that play up. I don't know who threw
Wasn't
it
it
to him.
Raymond? Was it Raymond?
Yeah, Khalif Raymond.
Khalif Raymond threw that pass, maybe? I could be wrong. You don't have to look
Maybe.
it up if you don't want to.
I don't know. I have to look it up.
And it's
All
fine.
right, then our last award we have here, most valuable player on the Lions
Not
team.
read it correctly. It is not most valuable player. That is not what our award is called.
Okay,
Say what is
most
written.
most valuable Lion.
There we go. The most valuable lion, baby. Who you
Okay,
got?
so my pick is Penei Sewell. Played
Wow.
1,178 snaps, tied for first in the league. Only allowed one sack, and according to the PFF, ranked number one right tackle in the league. And just the way his mentality, like firing up the team before the game starts, being a captain this year, making the Pro Bowl. This guy will be an All Pro, will be in the Hall of Fame.
Oh yeah.
Well, yeah, that's why I picked Penei Sewell there.
Okay. All right. Hey, I love that choice. But for my most valuable lion, it's going to turn into most valuable lions. I'm going to take Sewell and I'm going to add his four best friends. It's that whole offensive line is my most valuable lion or lions. That whole line, it starts there. It starts with them opening up the holes for the running backs. It starts with them protecting Goff long enough to make a lot of the plays. On top of it, the toughness of Frank Ragnow, like you mentioned earlier, the longtime support of a Taylor Decker on the left tackle. Penei Sewell just being one of the most dominant right tackles in football. Dan Skipper coming in. A lot of good rotational guys. Scoresdale coming in. Glasgow, like you mentioned earlier. The offensive line was clutch this year. A guy gets hurt, another dude steps up. It was the epitome of the next man up. And that offensive line, it might have been like a few plays where like, crap, that guard that just started filling in isn't playing too hot, but they get it and they lock in, and that whole group of guys, just know how to play together in any combination, and it's awesome to watch. And they're not going to get enough credit. PFF, if you are beholden to their rankings or whatever, the Lions' offensive line was ranked in the top 5 all year pretty much. They're one of the best lines going into next season. We'll see what happens with Ragnow and if a Decker decides to not retire. But regardless of what they do, you got a young dude, stud in Sewell, like you mentioned. Sewell is going to be there for a long time. He's going to be a cornerstone of that offensive line. That's why in the Brad Holmes regime, he was the first pick. That's why they didn't take a quarterback. They took this dude. And this dude is the anchor of that offensive line right now. Frank Ragnow, obviously, before the regime came in, and Decker before the regime came in, they were already 2 solid foundational pieces to just add a Sewell. And almost instantly, that offensive line kind of, bolstered up in credibility and skill. And yeah, it took a little time, but it's so worth it. And they're one of the best units on this team. Without them, a lot of that stuff doesn't work. That's why they are my most valuable Lions.
Yeah, just the way was it Hank Fraley, the coach of the offensive line, the talent he's been doing. Yeah, when Jonah Jackson get hurt or Graham Glasgow's got to go to a center, even in plugging in like someone like Alsika to cover, or even like rookie Scoresdale coming in a couple of games. I think he's gonna step it up next year. So yeah, the way Hank Fraley's been able to hone in on that talent on the offensive line is really big for the Lions there. All right.
Yeah.
Anything else, or anything else you want to add?
I'm good. I think we got a lot of it out. Obviously we didn't give any complete love to Jared Goff. And like I said, it's nothing against Goff. I definitely almost wanted to give him most valuable Lion, but then I kept thinking about it. I was like, look, that offensive line, if it weren't for them, if it weren't for some of the weapons, I'm not saying Goff wouldn't have been as efficient. I mean, it helps. And I think Goff, was right up there. He's in the conversation. I don't want him to be an afterthought. I hope he gets paid, and I want him to stay in Detroit. Remember when we thought he was just a bridge quarterback? I don't think he's a bridge quarterback anymore. I think he could be a dude that could be here for the next 5 to 7 years if he wants to, depending on what Brad Holmes' plan is. If they want to invest in a Jared Goff, I am completely on board with it.
Yeah.
So
yeah, especially I don't know if they're gonna re-sign Josh Reynolds, but we got Jamison Williams stepping it up next year. Cleve Freeman coming back. If they get maybe another top receiver in the market.
we could talk about that. I'm seeing some Mike Evans talk, and I don't want to get too excited, but I would take a Mike Evans.
I would. He's too old.
Dude, okay, we're wrapping it up, but that's the dumbest thing you could have said. The dude's got 1,000 yards receiving like every year of his career. Back off.
Yeah, he already drops a lot of passes too. So. All right, now that I got you fired up here, let's close it out.
Yeah. All right, that sounds good to me. Ladies and gentlemen, we hope you enjoyed listening or watching our program today. Be sure to visit the World of Football's website, theworldoffootball.com, for news, links, upcoming events, original articles, videos, and more. If you want to get in touch with us, just hit us up at info@theworldoffootball.com. That's our email address. Or you can connect with us on one of our many social media platforms like Facebook, X, Instagram. Just look for TWOF Kalamazoo and all those, and you should be able to find us. We have a flagship podcast that's currently on a little bit of a break. Our last show was last Tuesday, and we're going to take a break till about mid-March. So we're on a little bit of a break. That's why me and Kyle got a little extra time to throw up this nice long podcast today. But that show is called This Week in the World of Football. Feel free to go back, catch up on new episodes. We'll have new episodes back in middle of March. Be on the lookout for that. Every Tuesday. Also, you can find our podcast on this YouTube channel as well. Again, links will be all down in the description below.
All right. Middle of March, is that when the UFL comes out?
UFL will be March 30th. We're trying to go to that game at Ford Field, the opening game of the season, if you want to tag along. I believe it's the Michigan Panthers and the St. Louis Battlehawks. So we'll probably go into that. Well, Dan and I already got the football stuff set away. We're already talking going to Vancouver, Canada for the Grey Cup. We're talking about going to the UFL game. We're going to Minnesota in May for arena football. And I'm sure we'll probably fit in some women's football. There's a team up in Grand Rapids from the Women's Football Alliance that we kind of want to check out. And I'm sure there'll be more. It's going to be a long, fun football season. I mean, we'll still come back and talk Lions, Kyle. But come with me on the other videos, guys. We're going to talk about more different football stuff. Yeah. Maybe Kyle will pop in too as a guest.
Highly doubt.
Come to Detroit with us again for UFL.
All right, so that's it for us this week. Make sure to keep an eye out for future videos. I know we got waiver wires coming up, free agencies coming up, drafts coming up, franchise tags I think are next week. I think they got to lock those in or not. So yeah. Once those,
that's why it's important for people to hit that bell notification. Hit that bell notification so you know when we drop a new video. Because I'm sure Kyle will hit me up and be like, "Hey, we need to talk about the Lions signing this Division III prospect or whatever or something." I'm sure he'll want to do a bunch of different stuff. So you want to be on call for that. Everybody, get that little alert on your phone.
Don't be surprised if the Lions sign T. Higgins. Just throwing it out there.
Well,
okay.
I don't know how I feel about that.
Thanks for watching today's episode. Remember to like, subscribe, comment. Let us know what your Lion Around awards would be for the Lions.
Yeah.
What you think about Matthew Betts. Go out there, watch a video or two of him. I'd like to hear what you guys think of him. And yeah, thanks for watching.